Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we sit down with Jason Simpson, the head coach at UT Martin. In this conversation, Coach Simpson discusses the importance of using your network, being willing to self-evaluate and change for the betterment of the team, and joining the AFCA Board of Trustees this year. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Simpson.
Coach Simpson, how you doing?
Good morning. How you doing? Appreciate you having me on.
I'm excited about it, Coach. Let's go ahead and dive in here. I always love this question, especially with somebody as much experience as yourself, and kind of digging back into the good old days when you decided you wanted to be a part of this great profession.
That I don't know if I actually have a date, to point to, but my parents were both educators. My dad was a principal, my mom was a teacher, and so you just kind of learn to you live on that schedule, right? Christmas break, spring break, summer break, okay, and so sometimes that's just how you get wired, and then you add your love and passion for college athletics. I think I always dreamed about playing college athletics. That was a bigger dream of mine than professional. And I was fortunate enough to play, football and baseball in college, and enjoyed both, and probably had more success in college baseball and some minor league baseball. But always dreamed about and enjoyed the X's and O's and the development of the college game for football players. And so when I got in college, I kind of knew, okay, this is the route I'm going to go. Didn't exactly know how to get started. All right. And then I realized, there was some networking that had to be done to get opportunities with some different coaches that I had played for. And then it took off from there back in 1995.
There you go. So it's fun when I get to sit down and do some homework on some guys that we just see as, Coach Simpson, head coach at UT Martin. And you go and find out all these cool things, and where you've been and all that kind of stuff. But I did not run across the baseball piece. So baseball was a big part of your kind of upbringing and obviously your collegiate experience, right?
Absolutely. No, being from the state of Mississippi, Ron Polk, most every baseball player in the state of Mississippi grows up wanting to play for Ron Polk back when he was the head coach at Mississippi State. And, we all wanted to be Will Clark, Rafael Palmeira, and Bobby Thigpen and those guys. And so, but using the football opportunity to a scholarship to be able to, basically, be a member of the baseball team, that was a great opportunity for me. And, looking for different opportunities to play, and ended up transferring to Southern Miss and playing for Jeff Bauer and Hill Denson was my baseball coach at Southern Miss. And so great memories and great experiences.
Yeah. And, I obviously if you end up in the coaching profession, I say this from my perspective, I transferred, as well during my college experience, and two of my first 3 jobs were with collegiate jobs were with each of my former head coaches. Obviously just kind of was building a network and not really realizing it. I guess we're going to talk about it here in a little bit, that you were able to kind of dial into some of your network to help you out. But your first opportunity pops up in 1995 in the coaching profession. How did you kick down that door? Typically that first one is just kind of the toughest one, right?
No, absolutely. You're 100% correct. I think 3 of my jobs that I've had have come from coaches that I played for.
Right.
The first one was from an assistant coach of my high school staff. I played at South Jones High School. A guy named Wayne Graves was our defense coordinator, and he had played at Delta State there at Mississippi Division II school. And actually, one of our board members, Todd Knight, was the head coach.
Oh, wow.
At Delta State. And so Wayne Graves had made some calls to the athletic director there that he had played for, and and throw my name out there to, it was a video GA job was the opportunity that I was chasing, just to be a part of the staff. And so the athletic director got my name to Coach Knight, who didn't know me from anybody. And so, trying to being very persistent and getting in front of him. And I think by day one that I got there, ended up being able to get one of the graduate assistant spots, on the field, on defense. And so, so use that one. And the second one I used, experience relationships, was Mike Williams, was the head coach at Jackson State. And, pretty neat staff. Patrick Nix, Bo Nix's dad, was on that staff. Doug Meacham, who's at TCU, Will Muschamp, Charles Kelly, just took the coach DC job at Auburn. Deke Adams, the D-line coach at Arkansas, was on that staff as well. And, but Mike Williams, who was running back coach at Southern Miss as I played, hired me as a receiver coach. And so, used that contact. And then Rodney Allison, fast forward 3 years later, got the head job at UT Chattanooga while I was out at Southwest Texas. And so, made that contact with him, knew me as a college player, as a quarterback who played for him, and hired me as the offensive coordinator at UT Chattanooga. So, and I find myself doing the same thing here as the head coach now.
Right.
Okay. At one time, a couple of years ago, I think we had 6 or 7 guys that we were full-time or graduate assistants, kind of like yourself was with Coach Berry. And it gets to be comfortable to bring those guys back because you've known them since they were 18 years old. They understand the culture that you want in the building. There's a lot of things that go without having to be unsaid, that are unsaid, to where you just teach them how to recruit and the X's and O's of it. So I certainly been on the other side of that, and those are great opportunities for me with my former coaches.
Yeah, that's awesome. Each one of those is just so unique. But I do think it's really cool that your high school coach actually wasn't on that Delta State staff, but he picked the phone up for you. So I would be curious how you just, I'm assuming probably just got done playing baseball for the last time and realizing you want to get into the profession. How did you see the job? How did you know to hit your coach up? Just what was that sequence in between you getting the job and kind of seeing it?
Right. No, that's, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Actually, so once you realize that, I actually went back to Southern Miss once, small professional opportunity was afforded to me to get graduated, right, and was going to be a graduate assistant in baseball there for Coach Denson.
Oh, wow.
And, and I love college baseball and, an avid fan of it today, but that's a different, different coaching. That's more of a repetition game, right? You play 56 games. You go 0 for 4, right? You roll the balls out again the next day, and you put some hits together and stuff. And so I just realized that even though I love that, it's the same kind of practice schedule on a daily basis, okay? And at that point, I don't know if I really knew what all went into, college football schedules and practice plans and things like that. But I had a good understanding after being a quarterback. So, being honest with you, so I decided, if I'm going to coach, college-wise, I want to go the football route.
Yeah.
And, that's very stimulating for me. And so to be able to, call a former high school coach, and we had, some good teams there at South Jones High School and played in the state championship and I had some good memories and good relationships. So, yes, for him to put his name on me and make some calls for me. And I was thinking about, there was no football scoop back then. And I'm not sure exactly, how I think I saw it like in, some NCAA.org, looking for a GA, opportunity. And I can't remember exactly how that came about as far as advertisement back in 1995, but it was not as, it was not as prevalent as it is today of social media and different things of different job opportunities.
For sure. And, I'm going to kind of make this joke here, but we're 350 episodes into this podcast and, kind of sitting in this chair and talking to all these different coaches. It's a couple spots that tend to have some commonalities in this coaching profession. And Delta State just seems to be one of these stops that's like, Jamie Chadwell, man, I got Braun in the background here who records the video, but I mean, literally somebody I talked to in the last couple of days was a Delta State guy, and he named the staff that was there, and there are guys everywhere. And that's one of those spots where a lot of just fantastic coaches have stopped at. But they always start with the joke. I never heard of Cleveland, Mississippi. I thought I was going to Cleveland, Ohio. So so obviously you had been a Mississippi guy. You kind of already knew a little bit about it. But you get over there to the Delta, and you were talking about kind of the maybe the collegiate baseball route, and just kind of maybe the monotony. I don't know if you didn't use that term, but just kind of the same things, making sure the guys can scoop up the ground balls and catch the pop flies, all that good stuff. And then you get into the college profession as a graduate assistant, and although you had played quarterback and all that kind of stuff, it caught me off guard once I got done playing. I got in the coaching profession, was like, golly, these dudes show up at 5, 6 in the morning, and they leave at 9, 10, 11, 12 at nighttime. I never knew that. What was kind of your experience just to kind of getting exposed to that grind that kind of comes with the profession, especially as a GA?
Right. Well, I tell you, I kid with Coach Knight. That I probably was one of the worst GAs that he ever hired. Okay, and I use that as an example to my young coaches over the years here. Being a head coach for T. Martin. I was not a very good GA. I was on defense and didn't really know how to. I did the minimum and didn't. Back then, right? The same technology was not available that is now.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't get. I was lucky if I had, one FCA, the coach's manual, right? To be able to study some things and try to teach myself some fundamentals of some different things. So I kid with my players and my coaches now. I'm like, man, you can, you want to learn to backpedal right here? Just Google it, man. There'll be 10 different drills. You can't watch all the drills. I promise you, but there's one that's going to make you a better coach and a better player that's out there available now. But I really think when I got to Jacksonville State, and I became a position coach, coaching receivers. That's when I realized, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my professional life, because it really sounds cliche, but it felt like a calling because I was single then, and I didn't like the weekend. I hated when the weekends came because all the married coaches stayed home with their wives, their families, right, during the off season, right? So there was nobody to learn any ball from. I'd be up there, at the office by myself. And that was back, obviously, in the VCR days and all that kind of stuff. So, no, when I realized that when I didn't like it, when people wasn't in the office to talk ball with and learn from, and but then I also liked during the week when you had an opportunity to shape a young man's life, to be a part of his life, to see him grow spiritually, see him, grow physically and mentally, and help him chase his dreams. You just become, just becomes a way of life.
Yeah. Now, I love that you mentioned, some of the educational opportunities to sharpen your tools individually as a coach, right? And maybe the unique ways. It's so different now. You can just scroll through Twitter and you'll see 100 drills that you might like or dislike, and you kind of make a decision while you're in the restroom or something like that. And obviously much different at that point in time. Play quarterback. One of your first job is coaching receivers. I played running back. My first collegiate job was coaching receivers, and I had to sit down and learn the position, because if I didn't, there was going to be guys that played it all through high school that knew it better than I did, and I just didn't want that to be the case. Kind of how did you kind of get outside of your comfort zone of just knowing some of the QB stuff and making sure you were going to be a great receiver coach?
No, you know what? I remember still to the day. We're having a lot of anxiety about that, right?
Yeah.
The memorization of the scheme, memorization of the rules of the routes and all that, right? That's pretty easy, right? Just how much, time and effort you put in that to kind of master that. But the fundamentals part, right? When you're moving from one position to another, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And, especially as a young coach. And I remember, like I said, at that point in time, not having a whole lot of teaching aids to learn different things, okay, until you're finally able to get some tape of your own players doing some things and, learn trial and error. But I remember but I do think this makes a good coach. I remember, like I said, Doug Meacham was at TCU now. He was the offensive coordinator. And I remember, the next day we were supposed to talk, wide receiver play, fundamental play. And I remember, having anxiety that night because nobody had told me, or he had not up to this point of, which foot he wanted on the ball.
Yeah.
Was it inside foot or outside foot? And I remember, at that point in my career, right, I don't think that I really knew enough to tell you, the benefits of either way.
Right.
Okay. And I remember that led into a dialogue and discussion, and, we made the decision and roll with it. Okay. But, I think that's what kind of makes this game, so great in the fundamentals of it. There's certainly different ways to do certain things. I think, after, 27, 28 years now, I think that's one of our strengths now here at UT Martin is being open-minded, being versatile, and not, there's some things, that we believe heavily in, we've had success with, and there's other things that, that we continue to study and improve on and steal techniques from other people and stuff. But, when I knew we were going to do this podcast, I was laughing to myself because I remember, different jobs that I would take, before technology became so available to coaches from a fundamental or scheme standpoint, that, I would kind of travel around those AFCA manuals.
Yeah.
Because that was really, until I learned different fundamentals, and I would think to myself, okay, if it's a running back's job, right, I need to know some more. And if it's a tight end's job, right, where's that article on page 37, That's right. But that's how it was. That's how it was back then, unless you, were with some guys that were very knowledgeable that could teach you.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I love the shout out there because we do have a lot of coaches still hit us up, wishing we had the manuals. We don't do it. We still do them, but not in the same fashion. Obviously, everybody's kind of moved educationally so much digital stuff now. But so from 1997 to 1999, this is your first opportunity to have a room. What was that maybe biggest piece of growth that you saw during that time period? Maybe from your first year to your last year there.
Right. No, that's a great question. I think obviously knowledgeable, of like I said, coaching a new position of helping kids, develop different toolboxes for, releases at the line of scrimmage, secondary releases, how to, run routes versus man coverage and zone coverage and stuff. I think, I certainly grew over those 3 years there. The third year, I ended up moving to quarterback. Right. The first 2 years was that receiver. I think learning as a young coach at that point, I guess I'm 26 or whatever years old, okay, of how to be, a mentor, how to be a disciplinarian, how to do it within my own personality at my age, to get the most out of the players. I think that's a learning curve, finding out, who you are. It's no different than fast forward 6-7 years later after that, when I'm a head coach at 34, with 120 kids now that I'm responsible for. So, learning how to motivate, learning how to discipline, learning, how to push kids, but also doing that as I grew, X's and O wise and, grew as a person and a man myself, to help, be a good influence on the players that are in my room.
Yeah. What's been cool here for the last, few weeks, we've been doing a lot of podcasts with members of the board, and obviously be a part of the board, you got to be a head ball coach and more than likely have some success, and more than likely you're a little bit more seasoned than maybe some of the younger head coaches in the profession. And I get on a podcast and we're obviously going through the journey like we are now, and oftentimes some of these guys' early stops are very similar to yours, where it's almost a who's who. At least for me, as a younger guy, it's like the who's who of that staff you were on at Jacksonville State. Like, I mean, these are some of the more special guys of the profession. It's kind of an odd question here, but do you know that at that point in time? I mean, that you're sitting around a group of guys that are running the game at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I don't know that I did. Now, you can kind of tell, when you're in the room, who the smartest guys were.
Right.
And now you understand, okay, the smartest guys with a great work ethic, they're the best teachers, motivators, guys that could, that were confident in what they did, but also could, take their ego out of it and be a great staff guy. Those are the guys that have gone on and had tremendous success, and I'm sure, like many college coaches that where that, this is the profession it's going through. I remember, I think it was in 1995. I'm not sure. I think I was at Delta State. It was in 95 or 94 or 5. Okay, when I was just getting in the profession, I believe that the convention was in New Orleans, and I remember luckily my being from Ellisville, right, so I wasn't too far away. and making it. My vehicle barely made it down there, right? But I was going to the conventions my first time. I don't even know, I don't know anything about this. I don't, but I remember going in there, and I remember seeing Bill Walsh. Okay. And I remember running into, just seeing different people in the lobbies and, people in the restroom of guys that were me. It was like being in Hollywood. It was like seeing movie stars.
Right.
Okay. And these were men that I wanted to emulate and things. And I remember thinking, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. That was, just a great experience. And, and I remember, basically you kind of just hang out with college coaches that coach you, right? Because you don't know anybody. You're first breaking into the profession, and and so you just kind of stand around in their crowd and go get them a cup of coffee if they ask for it, and then wait around for them to introduce you to other people that led to some other relationships and contacts later on in this profession.
Yeah. I ask that question sometimes on the podcast, and I'm happy that you kind of dove into it, because I think that first experience is so unique. Probably now more than ever. And I know it was awesome then, but obviously with all the TV networks, you look up and, dang, This is the guy that I just saw Saturday night. With the come from behind win in the bowl game, and for me, I kind of had a very similar experience. I think most of the coaches would get on, kind of have that, that starstruck feeling. And oftentimes, I always ask this question, because this was the feeling I got. Was, I was a young coach. I was GA at Commerce at the time. Went to my first one. It was in Dallas. It wasn't very far from us at Texas A&M Commerce. And I pulled up there, and I was intimidated by the profession. I was like, man, how on earth? It's thousands of these guys. And when that job goes up on the scoop for a receiver job, I mean, it's going to be a lot of these dudes that know a lot more than me, at this point in time, that are going to be going for it. And, it was fun. It was cool, but it was also a little intimidating. Did you experience any of that? And I know this is a tough question, but I mean, who would have thought? I'm seeing the Coach of the Year thing in the background there. That, that young guy from Ellisville that barely made it down there to New Orleans, all of a sudden be, doing a fantastic job at UT Martin.
No, that you're 100% right. And like I said, I remember being there, and you start thinking, how do you make this happen for yourself? I remember, being there at Jacksonville State, and at that time I'm living in the dorm, coaching receivers, eating in the cafeteria, right? And when I left Delta State, I actually got into the business world. I worked for BFI, was making a really good salary, but it wasn't wired like that. That wasn't satisfying. So I leave that job and come to Jacksonville State. And, I get to be a position coach, but I basically can't afford the car note. Now luckily, I had parents that were able to help me out, and, they gave that vehicle back to my parents, who gave it to my sister and took over the note, gave me her car, which was paid for, right? But wasn't as nice as the one I had. Okay. But that was the sacrifice I was certainly willing to make. And then you go from living in a nice apartment to pushing the beds together in Dixon Hall there at Jacksonville State. And, really seriously, I think it's about $300 a month, those first years. Okay. Yeah. And I remember it got up to like maybe $800. And I always told myself, and if I can just get full time, and I remind my young coaches about this. I said, I remember, I think the first job was $28,000 with benefits. And I was fired up, and I said, hey, if I can ever get to $35,000 here with benefits, I'll do this for the rest of my life. Right. And, and then you're trying to get to 50, then you're trying, and all those things, come into play. But, but you're right. Sometimes it's very difficult to figure out how to connect those dots and to get those opportunities. I remember in 2006 was my first year here. Win 9 games, we go to the playoffs, losing the last play to Jerry Keel and the Southern Illinois good football team. That was going to get us to the Elite Eight in the FCS, playoffs. And, so, get an opportunity to be region, whatever, coach of the year. And I'm sitting up there with, heroes of mine, right, of celebrities that I admired in the college coaching, with Lloyd Carr and Jim Grove and Bronco Mendenhall. These guys that were also recipients of that award as well. And, but it is a humbling profession as well.
No
Okay. There's not too many guys that stay on top, consistently every year. And, we experienced that the next year, didn't have as good a season. So, it is humbling, but you're right. It can be overwhelming as a young coach. But I take a lot of pride in, if you'll go back and look at that, at one time we had 11 guys that had coached here at UT Martin in the NFL. Okay. And it was like, now you got to, I'm having, I'm FCS, you're right. You're going to have turnover, frequently, especially if you've got good staff.
Yeah.
Okay. And I take a lot of pride in that. And so, I'm kind of mentoring guys and helping them know how to market themselves for the next opportunity.
Amen.
And they don't get those jobs because of being in my tree. I tell people, no, they kept me in a job for 19 years because I was smart enough to hire them.
Right.
It's pretty neat. I saw Ryan Nielsen was here, and he's the defense coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. DeMarcus Covington just got named defense coordinator for the New England Patriots. Justin Muscati just got named pass game coordinator for the Bengals. And Will Harriger's coaching quarterbacks, I believe, for the Carolina Panthers. And so, Alex Atkins played for me, the offensive coordinator, and GA, the offensive coordinator at Florida State. There's just a big list of those guys. Jared Parker was here, the head coach at Troy. Kane Womack just took the DC job at Alabama. So, and I'm just smart enough to steal from those guys,
right,
the knowledge, the different things that they brought, whether they were here for 1 year or 2 years or whatever it was. So, I feel like, and that's one of the reasons Coach Berry called me to, asked me to take, a seat on the board here, that I felt like that I owed it to this profession because it had been good to me. It allowed me to be, to impact a lot of people's lives, to compete on a yearly basis, and to make a good living, and allow me for my kids to grow up in the same town and watch them play and participate. My son plays at Alabama as a quarterback at Alabama. So, I've been very blessed, and this profession's been very good to me.
Amen, Coach. That's some awesome stuff. And I want to dive back into your staff here in a second. Let's hit these other two stops up that you had along the way to UT Martin, and then I want to circle back with some of the staffs you put together and things like that. So you finish up that time at Jacksonville State. During that time there, you walk in as a receivers coach, you walk out as a QB pass game coordinator guy. Wealth of knowledge, probably pretty, I would imagine, just a huge opportunity for growth, just to have first quarterback's room, which probably felt like home, and then get outside of your comfort zone with the receivers a little bit. And before the podcast, and I kind of just throw this out here, and you can talk about it or not talk about it. But obviously, between Jacksonville State and getting to Texas State, there were some other opportunities that kind of popped up here and there, and then you ultimately end up at the time Southwest Texas State, but you end up there in 2000. So just talk about, I guess what happened at Jacksonville State for you to leave, and why this was a good opportunity for you at Texas State.
Well, you know what? That's a hard part of this profession, and I'll tell you, our head coach resigned about game 3 of that third year. Okay. So you're finishing out the season, and, and Jack Crow ended up getting that job, okay, and the head coach of Jacksonville State. So our whole staff basically is let go.
Yeah.
And so that was back the days really before cell phones, to be quite honest with you. Okay. So when you're chasing a job back then in 1998, 99, okay, I just been married. I just got married, right? I got the first full-time job with benefits. Okay. My wife's a teacher. You get married in March. And, you're let go at Thanksgiving. Okay, so now what are you going to do? Right. And back in those days, I could tell these young coaches, that was when, the jobs would hit the football scoop. It'd come out, around lunch every day, and it'd come out one time, okay, during the day, one update during the day, okay? And so you're making calls to your different contacts, right, trying to find out about other jobs that are available. People are using their office phones. Okay, you can't get them on the cell phone. So basically all you're doing is leaving your messages. And so, you did that for, almost 2 months until you could, chase a job down. And like you and I were talking about, I actually ended up taking a DB job because I want to stay in the profession at Millsaps there in Jackson, Mississippi, where Bob Tyler was the head coach. And then went and interviewed for the offense coordinator job at Blinn Junior College, and actually took that job and never went to Millsaps and was at Blinn for about 3 months. Then that job at Southwest Texas under Bob DeBest, was available coaching the receivers, and it was a great experience for me. David Bailiff was on that staff on defense, former head coach at Rice. Chad Glasgow was at TCU for a long time. He was on that staff. Blake Miller was the offensive line coach. So I learned a lot in those 3 years, because you get to, after those first couple of years, right, you're kind of building a foundation of knowledge. Okay. But then when you move to another staff, right, there's another base of knowledge there that you're able to grow and learn different teaching methods as well.
Yeah. You said something interesting, that I wasn't able to kind of find as I was doing some research. I didn't realize, after your Delta State experience before going to Jacksonville State, that you kind of tapped into this business world just a little bit. Potentially, if that went really well, you might have just been out for good. Who knows how that could have played out, right? And I think, the coaching profession, I'm sure there's other professions out there that are, have some similarities, but coaching profession is so unique in terms of you can just get kind of your feet grounded a little bit, like you said, just start getting paid a little bit, got some insurance, got married, and then you're 4 or 5 years, 6 years into the profession, and for the first time you're getting let go. That's just a side of the profession you hadn't seen. So now, I mean, you're on your way to kind of being a vet of what's going on in the profession, and now for the first time you're dealing with this, and now you're responsible, for family and all the stuff that's kind of going on. So what was that? What were the emotions, the conversation, the dialogue with the wife before you start taking these, looking at these other opportunities?
It was hard. I still remember it till today, and I remember, you're going two months there, okay, and there was no contract, no payout, right? When that last game was over, that was the last check we got. Right. $28,000 didn't go, even back then didn't go very far.
Right.
And, so at some point, right, luckily at that time we didn't have kids. And I remember visiting with I had a brother-in-law that owned a medical supply company. Okay. And I'm to the point there where I'm like, okay, I need to do something. Okay. Because it's not a lot of fun sitting home every day, right? Just making calls while your wife's at work. And the best advice that he ever gave me, and I appreciate him, Mike Price. He said, Jason, I've got a job for you. I'll hire you tomorrow if that's what you want to do. Okay, in a sales job for his company, and making more than I was making there coaching. He goes, well, my advice to you, is if coaching is how you're wired, and this is what you want to do, keep pushing through, all right, and find a way to make a living at something that you love. He said, so right now I'm going to tell you, if y'all can keep making it financially, I don't want you to take this job with me yet. Okay, and and don't get me wrong, it was still touch and go a little bit, right?
Yeah,
because the comfort of moving to Nashville around my wife's family and having a steady income. Okay, or still going back to the unknown of where that next opportunity was going to be. And that can be tough on kids and, tough on young men. So, but luckily, through grace of God, I was given an opportunity, and then that led us out to Texas.
And now, a quick word from Hader Athletic. Since 1954, Hader Athletic has been your trusted partner in football practice equipment. Handmade in the USA with care and dedication, our products are crafted to elevate your team's performance. But what truly sets us apart? It's our unwavering commitment to customer service. When you reach out, you'll be speaking to a real person with extensive product knowledge that prioritizes you getting your equipment fast. Experience the Hader difference today. Visit HaderAthletic.com and join the community of coaches who trust us for quality, reliability, and expertise. Hader Athletic. For coaches, by coaches. Save 15% on your next order by using promo code AFCA 2024 at checkout. Now, let's get back to the episode.
You get here to Texas, you're back coaching receivers, and that now at some point in time you coach QBs there again too, right?
Right.
Okay,
the third year. Yeah.
The third year. Okay, so almost kind of that same sequence there at Jacksonville State, 2 years at wide out. Obviously, a second go around. You've had a room before. Probably pretty polished there at what you want to get done at the receiver position. And we'll kind of zoom through Texas State just a little bit. But at what point in time did you obviously I guess you had already potentially somewhat accepted a coordinator job. But, after going and polishing, those tools a little bit more, what led you to, think that going to be OC at Chattanooga was something that you needed to go seek, or, did that fall in your lap? How did that play out?
Right, a little both. Well, one of the first things that I tell young coaches here with me is, here's some mistakes that I made. When I went to Southwest Texas, right, first of all, fired up to have another opportunity at, the FCS opportunity, and it's a great place. San Marcos is an awesome place. You're in between Austin and San Antonio. Okay. But, approach every job like you're going to be there for, for it's your last stop. Okay. And, and so moving as a young couple, right? There's anxiety that comes with that, right? You've only been married a short period of time. Your wife's got to get another job and stuff. Obviously being married now for 25 years, we would be much, better equipped, for that, because I'm excited going to work every day and getting the opportunity, because I remember what it was like for 2 months to not have a place to call home. But those are certainly things as a coach that I think that we all have to, you got to take care of your family. You got to understand that the support staff from your wife is for any successful coach she's a part of that. Your family's a part of that. Okay. And I think I could have handled that a lot better if I had an opportunity to do that again. And but just like the 3-year cycle we were on at Jacksonville State, the 3-year cycle there was the head coach got let go year 3. Athletic director asked me to stay on with the new staff in a different role, but just was very fortunate that, like I said, Rodney Allison had just gotten that UT Chattanooga job, and through some conversations with him, and having myself prepared, for a phone interview with him. Here's all my stuff. Here's how I would organize it for you. I tell that story to Rodney was great to work for. The original plan was, okay, Jason, you organize the staff. I'm gonna give you the coordinator title, and you're gonna organize it for me, but I'm gonna call the plays, and that's how we're gonna do this. Okay, great. Well, when we get there, it's his first opportunity to be a head coach at Chattanooga. Okay, so we have this first offensive staff meeting. Okay. And Rodney says, all right, well, I want to start from scratch, from the formations of how we call everything, and we're going to all do it together, and not going to do, Jason, what you did or what he did at Auburn or Southern Miss or Clemson. Okay, it's going to be ours. Okay, so great. So we get about 3 minutes in this meeting, and he's the head coach, and AD needs to see him. He's got to hire defensive staff and all that. And he says, I'll be back. You guys, just kind of get going, and I'll catch up when I get back. Well, it was 3 days later before he came back into that offensive meeting.
Right.
Okay. So after about 2 hours of sitting there looking at each other, I said, well, we got to get something on the board here. Got to get something on paper. And really kind of when you get thrown in the fire, you kind of grow. Right. And, you have an opportunity really to think and take ownership in it. And that was probably the first time that I wasn't ready for that. Okay. And I tell young coaches that I give different coordinator titles here that, until you have to block them up as an offensive coach, right? You can draw all the routes that you want, okay? But until you're responsible for, blocking them up and handling, different fronts and rule it up and stuff, that's really, in my opinion, when you start becoming a coordinator. And learn to not. Justin Watts is on that staff, who's just got hired at Duke as a tight end coach. Jeff Nixon, I believe, just took the offensive coordinator job at Syracuse. Was with the Giants, especially running back coach. We were all young coaches, from about 30 to 33 years old on that staff, on the offensive staff. And, we did a lot of growing up together.
Yeah. And so first winning season in 2005 since 1997. So it sounds like it over time it kind of got together. But more specifically, just for you, you mentioned, you kind of got to start putting those hard rules down and think about some things that, all these offensive guys can get on the board and draw the X's and O's and draw some cool stuff. But you got to start blocking it, and you're dealing with coverage and pressure and all that kind of stuff. Things change. What were some of those moments early on, where you were learning that, you know what I'm saying? Like where you were like,
yeah.
dang, I didn't think that went through all the way. What was some of those moments, and how did you get past it?
Well, I tell you what, I told this story the other day to a member of my staff, and we were just taking over a program, and a lot of turnover, and we wasn't very good, wasn't very talented.
Yeah.
And if you look at our offensive stats, I mean, they were average at best. Okay, but the reality of it is, when the game first three quarters, we probably were averaging, 175 yards, maybe 200 yards. And that fourth quarter, when we're down by 3 or 4 scores, right, then we're throwing for 150 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. So you see the newspaper on Sunday, right, and the reporters be blasting the defense about how bad that they were, and the offense had 375 yards or 400 yards. But the reality of it was, right, not when the game was on the line, right? If we get those yards in the first half, the defense can play a little differently.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. So that was the first thing that I learned, that it's not about the statistics, okay? It's about being sound, not turning the ball over, finding something that you hang your hat on, finding a way to get your good players the ball, building your schemes, around them. And really where I grew as a coordinator was, we're going into year 3, okay? And I think we're 2 wins maybe the first year, 3 wins the second year. The head coach makes a change as the defensive coordinator, okay? Matter of fact, he called me in and said, "Hey, I'm going to make a change." And I'm thinking, oh, boy, I hope it's not me.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, I'm going to let the whole defensive staff go." Okay? So, all right, so now I'm getting another year. Okay, what can I do with this? And I remember as an offensive staff, Jeff Nixon, who was running back coach at the time, he had been at, I believe, Shippensburg, okay, Division II school. All right. And we had been, pretty much a 4-wide team. That's kind of the personnel that we had, but we really could never really control a game. If we hit a couple screens or 4 verts or something, we might, we might kind of fall into a win. Okay. But we were never really controlling the line of scrimmage and being a dominant team. And so I'm looking for answers. Okay. What can we be offensively to grow? And Jeff kept saying, okay, y'all don't want to listen to me, but, this is what we did at Shippensburg. Okay. And I'm at the point now to where I'm listening to, to anything that I can get my hand on. Right. So Jeff goes and gets his VCR tapes. All right. And he comes back in the staff room and he and I sit down and he puts it in. Okay. Well, I don't know if you remember the running back that played for the Packers. Kuntz was their running back. I forget what his first name was, but for the Packers for several years, he was their running back at Shippensburg, I believe is where it was. And so he puts this tape in, and they're like 2 tight ends, 2 and 3 backs. Okay, they're 22 personnel. Okay, and they seemed like every gap scheme, that's been invented. Yeah. Okay, and they're running the football, and they're doing some great things. Okay, and as I learned how to block those 2-man services, 3-man services, how to handle it versus pressure and stuff, as we're just studying that, then we kind of reinvented ourselves. And, and that evolved into, we got better and we were able to be more physical team and help to play action game and stuff. And that led to that year being able to get to a winning season and get some momentum in the program and kind of gave me some credibility as a coordinator and led me into this job here at UT Martin.
Yeah, you started that story off with, I was just telling one of my staff members this the other day, and what was that takeaway for you individually? I'm like, obviously as a head coach, I'm sure you kind of reflect back on that anytime you mentioned earlier on the podcast being creative. But what was that takeaway at that very moment for you, just moving forward?
Being able to, the point I was trying to make is that. Hey, the last 4 years at UT Martin, okay, I saw a stat the other day. I think in FCS, we've won the 5th most games in the last 3 years in FCS, 28. And I believe, Coach Hawk at Montana was like at 33. Yeah. Okay. But in the last 4 years, we've had 4 different quarterbacks, due to graduation, transfer, whatever. Yeah. Okay. And it takes a lot of pride of having humility enough to adjust, what are the players in our building, okay? And not just saying, okay, this is what we do, all right, schematically. And, so the point I was making was even going back to those days, okay, being humble enough to study and to teach, not just to change, but change, when it's necessary, okay, and improve on a yearly basis. And, we were 7th in the country last year in total offense here at UT Martin. Okay, it's a good year. We went 8-3. All right, but you come in our office staff meeting now, right? I mean, I'm studying Oregon, studying Washington. Who are the teams that are doing some good things, motion and shifts, and things that we didn't necessarily have. That didn't play a huge factor in our in our offense last year. Okay, and that's fun to me. I think that's necessary, and that's kind of what works for us. So the point I was trying to make is the day you walk in here, you think you got all the answers. Okay, I think that's when you get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I absolutely love that, and I definitely knew that was the point you were trying to make. I just, you get into that head coaching role, and I hate saying this about the profession, but most of us were. I mean, and look at you. You were a 2-sport collegiate athlete. I mean, you kind of got to have a little bit of egotistical, piece of you.
Yeah, you do.
And a lot of us have that, and it's very much like, oh man, this is how we do it. And we're going to win this way, and we're going to get the kids to figure it out. And sometimes it is just cutting on some film and saying, hey, that's pretty cool. How does this fit? How do we make it fit? Oh, it doesn't fit. Let's throw it out, and just being able to, self-eval and all those stuff that sometimes are hard to do. But that's awesome, Coach. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think what's unique too is you and Coach Allison, in 2003, in that first year for him, a few years later, you're going to get your first opportunity, and I would only imagine that you probably had a lot of things to kind of look back on as you had that job and say, hey, you know what, Coach Allison wanted to come here and call us and that was tough for him to do because of all the other stuff that happens as a head coach. But let's talk about that, right? You get the job at UT Martin. Obviously, you mentioned earlier you had a lot of success, but what was one of your big challenges upon taking that job?
Well, first of all, when we got here, this place UT Martin had made the jump from the Gulf South Conference to the OVC, and a lot of the coaches have been in this building, but they were still operating on a Division II budget, competing against FCS schools. Okay, so they at one time had lost 44 or 45 straight OVC games. Okay, so I was very blessed when I got here. They were coming off a 4-4 season, and the head coach left, so he did leave us some. There was some players here.
Yeah.
Okay, it just there was no tradition or stability of winning up to that point. But I think the first the thing I learned the first probably 18 months was this. First of all, I knew that I only had 7 full-time spots on the staff then. Okay, so I put 4 of them on defense, and there was 3 of them on offense. So there's your 7. Then I was the 4th on offense. Okay, and then we had 2 GAs at the time. And matter of fact, I was the equipment manager then as well. I didn't even have a full-time equipment guy. All right, so I'd be downstairs myself and Will Harriger, who's the quarterback coach of the Carolina Panthers now. He and I are downstairs like 5 minutes before practice, giving out mouthpieces and shoulder pad strings and stuff like that. And then we're trying to get out to the practice field, and it's like your kid that just shoves everything in his closet and shuts the door and says it's clean. Right, that's how the day was. And on that staff that year was Marcus Satterfield, who's the offensive coordinator in Nebraska. Jeep Wade was the offensive line coach at Georgia Tech now. Okay, those are 2 guys on the offensive staff. Chris Boone was the defense coordinator on defense, who is now at Troy on that first year staff. And so some good young coaches. I was the oldest at 34. All right, but one thing that I the whole time I've been here, I've been the offensive coordinator and the play caller, and I kind of kid guys and say, hey, I'm smart enough to surround myself with smart people, but until one of you is older than me and been calling plays longer than me, I'll let you do it. But the reality of it is, I'm never going to be able to hire somebody that's been a coordinator for over 20 years, probably. Right. Okay, based on salary opportunities. Okay. So, and that way we've kept the verbiage, at least on one side of the ball has been able to be consistent over all these years. Okay. But the thing that I would learn, I would tell any other first year head coaches is that, and Coach Berry, Todd Berry and Denver Johnson told me this. Okay. And they were both here in 1988. Okay. They said, every day that you get to work, okay, there is going to be 10 problems waiting for you at your door. And 7 of them can go away with more money. Okay, maybe salary for a coach, maybe more scholarship dollars for a player. You got to buy this or whatever. Okay. But guess what? You don't have any more money. Okay. So how you going to get through, how you going to get through the day?
Yeah.
And have an opportunity to be successful. Okay. And then I think it was Coach Berry that told me, he said, remember this, when you go to work every day, not everybody is fired up to be a Skyhawk as you are. Okay. Because you're the head coach. Okay. Yeah. Other people on the staff are coming and going. Players' careers are fairly short. Okay. And what I took from that was that, take pride in what you do. Okay. But understand that everybody's got their own, desires, needs, and wants and dreams.
Right.
Okay. And so your job as the head coach is to figure out how to put a team together. Okay. But understand that everybody has their own individual things that they're dealing with on a daily basis. Okay. So how do you get everybody moving in the same direction, but yet everybody wants and does different things? And so, I've always kept that in mind with every decision that I make when it comes to our program. And but from when I say 18 months is this, we won 9 games that first year, right?
Yeah.
So part of me thinking, boy, this is easy, right?
Life is good, yeah.
9 games, okay, in a quality league, and you're in the league with East Kentucky and Jacksonville State and Tennessee State, so it's a quality FCS league. All right, but I don't think it was until I think that first year we just had a good team.
Yeah.
I don't think we had a pretty good program. And even though year 2 we didn't win as many games as we did the first year, okay, year 3 we went back to 8 wins, okay, and that's when I knew that that the program was growing, okay, because the consistency was starting to show from an academic standpoint, from a spiritual growth standpoint, from a culture standpoint. You can have a good team the first year, but being able to line up and do it on a yearly basis is something I take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you mentioned that earlier, when you talked about that first season and followed it up with a little bit of more of a tough season, it brought me back to this memory where I was at ULM with Coach Berry at the time, and we had just an absolutely fantastic season at a tough place. And I ended up running into Josh Heupel, who's now the head coach at Tennessee, but I ran into him when he was the OC at OU at the time, and we were playing him the first game of the year, and we were at the camp that summer, and I go and give him a hug, and he's like, "Man, congrats on the season. Now go do it again." And it was kind of like I took it as a snide remark, but he's a friend of mine. But the point he was making was like just how hard it is to consistently be good. The challenge of raising the expectations for people outside of the program, and then now all of a sudden, you get brought back down to reality, but their expectations still to win. And it was a really challenging year the next year, and we had a better team, but it was just tough for some reason. And I was curious how that affected you that second year, your confidence level as a head ball coach. You come in and walk in the first year, and like you said, it was hey, this is easy. Everybody should be a head coach, right? And then all of a sudden, you kind of face that reality. What's going through your head after you're looking at how that season went down that second year?
Well, I tell you what. Matter of fact, I spoke at our FCA, our student athlete FCA here last night, and one of my talks was point, and it was really about that year. That's probably my biggest testimony as a man in my faith was that, I was talking about the prayer of Jabez, okay, and I'll kind of give you a quick rundown. There's only 2 verses in Colossians on the prayer of Jabez, and he wasn't a hero in the Bible, okay, but there's been books written about those two verses, okay, and what he does is he was more honorable than any of his brothers, the scripture before that tells you, but actually his name is his mom named him Jabez because, he calls her pain in the labor. Okay. So that's his name. So he's no special person, right? Okay. But, he's basically thinking that, I don't have any great future. Maybe I'm kind of a loser. I'm nobody special, but he goes to God and he says, God, please, touch me, expand my territory. All right. But, keep me from evil. It's basically a four sentence prayer. Okay. And the testimony I was sharing with that FCA group last night was, okay, that first year we won 9 games. I'm OVC Coach of the Year. Yeah. Region, whatever, Coach of the Year. I'm on that stage at the AFCA convention, like I said, with Lloyd Carr, Jim Grove. All right. I'm sitting up there with these guys. I'm getting opportunities to go speak different churches and give my testimony. I'm blessed. My territory is expanding with the opportunities that I have to touch and give people. No, UT Martin is not, this isn't Alabama, this isn't Florida State. Okay. There's a lot smaller group. Okay. But my territory is expanding. Okay. All right. That next year we lose like the first 4 games of the season by like 16 points. Yeah. We had graduated like 20 players, some good players. All right. And bottom line is we weren't coaching well enough and we were not, wasn't as talented as we had been. Okay. We lose, I think in 16 years, we're 14-2 against Austin Peay. Okay. And they're about an hour and 50 minutes from here. Well, we jump out to a 14-0 lead. Okay. All right. It's our first or second conference game. In my mind, we're getting this thing back right. Okay. Get it back like last year. We end up losing the game 16-14. Okay. So it's a short ride back. My kids are small at the time. I'm driving back with my family. My wife's, I'm not talking. I'm just thinking about the mistakes we made in the game. And my kids in the back seat, right? They don't, they know we lost, but they want to stop at McDonald's, right? Everybody wants chicken nuggets and all that. And I'm not wanting to hear it. Right. And my wife says, hey, I know you don't want to hear this right now, but, she and I were teaching a college ministry Sunday school class here at our local Baptist church. And she said, it's your day to teach the Sunday school class tomorrow. Okay. Well, that's obviously not on my mind at that time, right? All I can do at that point is wait to get to work tomorrow. Because I'm fixing to tell these coaches every mistake they made, and I'm fixing to get after this team. We're not going to blow a 14-point lead to a team that we're better than. Right. Okay. And that particular morning, I'm teaching out of the lesson was out of Exodus. It was about the Hebrew slaves, right? They'd taken them, out of slavery into the promised land, right? And what are they doing? They're complaining. I'll go back to slavery. I'll go back, right? Because I'm not trusting. I'm not appreciating these blessings that you bestowed upon me. So as I'm teaching this lesson of these kids that are way more courageous than me at this point in their college life to go to be involved in a church, go to Sunday school, be in the Baptist Christian ministries, it really humbled me. It really kind of slapped me in the face and says, you know what? All right, God had given me these blessings. Here's you an opportunity during a losing season of what kind of person are you going to be? What kind of leader are you going to be now that your name's not in the paper every week? Right. Okay. And I really grew and went back to work that day with a calmness about me, with a peace about me, with an opportunity to teach and correct and coach. We're very fortunate. I think we won 4 of the last 5 games and, salvaged the season. But that's a big growth in me as a head coach, most importantly as a Christian.
Wow, that's kind of an amazing story, and I'm just imagining being that assistant coach on that Sunday that kind of hit you, and I'm like, oh shoot, coach is here. Hey, how's it going? Just a different vibe, and it changed, man. That's awesome, man. What an awesome story. Now, I did want to go back to this, from earlier. You were talking about these guys. Most of those names I know. A few of them have actually been a part of our 35 under 35 program here. You don't take much of the responsibility for these guys. You're like, they make me a good coach, but I do have to ask a question. You hired them. You saw these special things, and that many guys, coaching at this type of level, having these type of jobs, you're doing something right. What's unique about your recruiting, not your recruiting process, but your hiring process? Especially at a place like that where you have the high attrition. Those guys come in and they're excited. I would imagine a lot of them are excited about working at a place with as much winning tradition at the FCS level, but I'm sure some of them aspire to go coach in the NFL and be coordinators at the FBS level, things like that. How do you identify those guys?
It was a pretty neat story. John Bryce did one on Football Scoop of kind of connections of UT Martin and different guys. Jay Graham was here, got to recruit his son a couple of weeks ago, and he was here back in 2007 as well. There's no special, secret to the sauce or whatever. I don't do anything different in the interviews than anybody else does. Okay. But no, does it help to have contacts? When people call me and said, Jason, this is your kind of guy.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it helps. But have I hired some that I didn't have any connection to? Yeah, I have, absolutely. All right, so they've all got here different ways and different references. All right, but the thing that fires me up is, and my young graduate assistants or players that are student assistants that are aspiring, okay, different advice I give them. I say, look, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, when you come in here, even though I tell you, okay, hey, meet me tomorrow at 9 o'clock and 9 a.m. Okay, don't be late. You can't be late, right? Don't ask. I haven't offered you the job yet. Don't ask me what it pays until I offer you the job. Okay, you should have already done your research a little bit and kind of known kind of the frame, of the salary range. Okay. Don't, if I do offer you the job, don't tell me that you gotta, you need a week off to go to spring break, with your high school, buddies and stuff, those are things that are just given. But the thing that I feel like that I saw in the different guys that have been here is when they got up on the board, they always came over prepared, whether they walk in there with, 3, 4, 5, some of them 6 different binders. It was important to them to get this job.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see how important it was to them. They may have copied it right out of their college coach's position manual. Okay. But at least they personalized it for UTM, Skyhawks.
Yeah.
Okay. That showed me that it was important to them. Okay. That they would be prepared, that they're willing to stay up late. And then when they got up on the board and started teaching, you could see the passion about it. All right. You could see, in the communication that they had with me about they were going to care for their players and they were going to be good teachers. And it was important to them that they captured the mind and the heart of their players. I remember when Ryan Nielsen was here coaching defensive line, I would go back to his defensive line room and I was amazed of, every day the guys would walk in there, there's like a different PowerPoint on the board and it wasn't just feet up on a desk, run the remote. Okay. Kids are learning, they're participating, they're involved, they're getting up out of their chairs and they're walking, and they're walking through. He would have the scout team in there 15 minutes before that, the offensive line, and they enjoyed going to him because of the way that he made them feel about themselves and, the physicality that the scout team was blocking his 3 technique at that time, and as he's bragging on him. So they wanted to be around him in the building. All those different guys that have gone on to do some great things from here had different characteristics about them. But, some of the things are very consistent, and that was passion. They were good teachers. They cared about people, and they were staff guys.
Yeah.
Okay, because they were all in different roles when they were here, and they were easy to work with. And I tell them, hey, I don't want to come in this building every day and fuss and fight. That's not my personality. Okay, I want to enjoy you. I want to be able to. I want to look forward to coming to office and not dread seeing you. And so all those guys have shown those personality traits.
That's awesome, Coach. Let me read this here real fast. Longest tenure head coach in the OVC, 115, 87 overall record, 160 all-conference selections, 38 All-Americans, 3 straight OVC championships from 21 to 23. Before I'm going to ask you one last question about the AFCA here, but before I leave the on the field football stuff, you kind of dove into the story about that last year at UT Chat as the OC, where you looked yourself in the mirror a little bit and I don't want to phrase it in a derogatory way, but put your guard down a little bit and say, man, put that Chippenberg tape in here, let's see what's going on, and and grew a lot, right? As a head coach, especially with a lot of success along the way, how do you reflect? How do you make sure that you don't, that you're staying green and always growing and not thinking that you're ripe and ready to be, ready to be riding here pretty soon? How do you stay sharp?
I think, like you said, first of all, you do have to have, some humbleness with a swagger.
Yeah.
You do have to believe, have conviction in what you're teaching. But, like that phrase is put together, there's got to be some humbleness. And there's always a better way to do this.
Right.
Okay. And there's a lot of smart people out there in this profession. And, how can you, how can your words match? And there's things that always would say, okay, with the talent level I have in this building, and if Nick Saban coached this team, how many games would he win? That's that kind of drives me. I don't want anybody else to be able to win any more games with the talent that we've accumulated here. Okay, so how can we make it better? Okay, and I'm sure to me that's how competitors are wired. That's how they recognize where they're deficient, where they got to get better on, and what their strengths are.
Well, you know what? I said I just had one last question with it. That made me think of something. Just because of your longevity there and your willingness to stay sharp. And I'm thinking about early on as a GA, you were just talking about how different it was to be a GA at that point in time, just because the tech has changed so much. From 06, that's when I got done playing college ball to this very moment. I mean, from social media, just from, honestly here recently with NIL and, one-time transfer stuff, it's just the game and more than the game itself, but the kids are different, and they're changing and, there's some main things that aren't going to change, but how do you evolve and keep up just with the changing in tech, the changing in kids and, just making sure you're staying sharp from that point of view?
Yeah. I think there's some things now. I tell the coaches that at 53 now, okay, and having, my son in the middle of his, college career,
right.
I probably have more, empathy, sympathy, certainly understanding from a player standpoint in this day and time, more so than I do, for being a dad, right? I hear his complaints, I hear his worries, I hear, from him. I think that's made me better at this point as a head coach because my own child is going through those things. Okay.
Right.
And then, I tell the assistant coaches, hey, sorry, because I probably have less patience with you guys now than I did back, at 34 because of that.
Yeah.
I visited one of our quarterbacks yesterday. We were talking about quarterback competition. I said, hey, I get it from your perspective. I get it from your dad's perspective. Okay. Because I'm having those same conversations, last year with Coach Saban and with my son. Okay. And, our job as coaches is put as many good players in the building as we can. But yet I think I owe that young man the understanding of the mindset that he's dealing with, right? Of competition that comes with playing that position as well. And even though he had a really good year, last year. So, I take a lot of pride in that. I don't have all the answers, but, seeing it from a player's perspective, I think is a quality that I don't know how it works for everybody, but it works for me, and I think it gains me some credibility. And when I make a mistake, at least I think our players give me a little bit of benefit of the doubt that I've got their best interest in mind, and then their futures in mind.
Coach, that's awesome. I've enjoyed talking in your career with you. Obviously, I know there's a ton in there I could still ask, and maybe one day we can come back and revisit some of the stuff. But you were recently named to the AFCA Board of Trustees, and this is the last question I have for you here. Why was that important for you? As I just kind of mentioned in NIL, one-time transfer, just all these moving parts that are going on in this game. Why was it important for you right now to kind of step in and just be a part of that conversation?
Well, it was important to me. Okay, and from the standpoint, one, I have so much respect for Coach Barry and the work that he's done and the growth of the AFCA. I was telling our coaching staff when I went to that first board meeting, okay, and was able to hear the different, our job is kind of be the voice of the different levels of college football and junior college football and high school football and things that we see, kind of boots on the ground, things that we deal with, things that we know that our players deal with, okay. And to give feedback in the organization, I was kind of mad at myself, okay, and I wish other head coaches that I worked for had made me be more involved in this profession, from that role, from the AFCA standpoint, to have a voice, okay, maybe to make an impact and not ignore that email that came, out of that AFCA office, okay. That's one of the things I communicated with my commissioner is that, I haven't done a good enough job over the years, and I've had some very good coaches that have gone on to different levels of football. But, so that's why I felt very compelled, to give my time and to be a part of this, because you're right. We know the adversity college football is faced with. Okay. I mean, the game on Saturday is still exciting. The practices look the same. They sound the same. When you watch the game, I mean, when I coach the kids, it feels the same to me, okay? And in some aspects, it's even better, okay? But, you know, we all know what we deal with Monday through Friday, and the FCS level don't have to deal with the NIL, you know, as heavily as the Power 5 guys do, okay? But the portal you do, okay? And, you know, being able to put a roster together, being able to make sure that you got 3 healthy centers, okay? I mean, they all could walk out of this door at the same time. So how do you make that happen and stuff? You know, so I wanted to be a part of that and maybe, you know, be able to give some input and some, you know, some things that may be some solutions. And if not, maybe there's some other things that I can be a part of that I know that I've seen over a 27, 28-year career and almost 20 years as the head coach. And when I leave this game, I hope I leave it better, you know, for the next group of coaches that come through.
Coach, well, I know you're doing your part in leaving the game in a better place, and I know I know you definitely leave UT Martin in a better place when it's all said and done. Appreciate the time. It's been my pleasure. It's been awesome diving into some of these stories and just getting some of that wisdom, man. So I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much. And hey, if you come across any of those old AFCA guys, man, I think my mom threw some of them away. Send them to me. I bet maybe give me one more push down.
That's right. All right, Coach. I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Hey, thank you. Have a great day, man. Appreciate it.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.